Hey everybody, Pure Marquette 1223 here with a little bit of a throwback today. Something I have not done in nearly 6 years or so. That's right, I am doing a lantern video, something that I never thought I would really do again. But I felt this lantern, while I probably won't keep it, was worthy for a video. And there's not one on the internet to really go over this. So I thought this lantern was worthy of a video and something that should be talked about. I even did a little bit of a throwback to way back when I used to do these videos. I have it on the kitchen table in my apartment. I'm on my own, obviously after 6 years. A little bit backlit as I used to do, and with the looking out the windows, where as you can see right now here in West Michigan, we're getting our first major snowfall of the season. It's been snowing for about 3 days straight. We're not getting as much as the folks out in Buffalo, New York are getting, but pretty healthy snowfall for this time of year for us to be getting this much this early on. But enough about the weather outside. We're going to get into this lantern today. The lantern we have in front of us is a number 10 brass tubular. These number 10 brass tubulars are pretty unique all around. There's nothing about them really that is standard on most lanterns, from the profile, the size, the shape, anything of the sort. The lanterns themselves, little back history on this model of lantern. They were made from 1881 to about 1887. So at the newest that this lantern could actually be, if you think about it, I'm going to take and do this really quick because I didn't write any of this down. The newest it could be is 135 years old. And then obviously you do the math. The oldest it could be is just over 140 years old. So by no means is this a new lantern. In fact, this may or may not actually be the oldest lantern I have ever actually done a review on, if you can call me crazy. I think the number 0 square lid tubular was just a hair newer than this. So to go into a little bit of depth about this, like I was saying, from 1881 to 1883 these were produced. Now, to get a little bit into why these things are a little bit interesting in terms of when they were made, nobody has really been able to 100% claim who made these. From what I have looked at, they were either made by Steam Gauge and Lantern Company or Dietz. Nobody really seems to lay claim to who actually made these. And one thing I will get into as I show you the lantern, there's no maker's marks on these. So it further adds to the mystery behind these number 10 brass tubulars. But I'm going to get into depth on this lantern, show it to you a little bit up close. As I said, it's number 10 brass tubular, plain as day, labeled on the top, if you can get the ring out of the way. Number 10 brass tubular. By the way, I have not cleaned this lantern in any degree. It's as I bought it. Well, I haven't cleaned the brass, excuse me. Very faint. I don't know how well, oops, just bumped the camera. You can see. But it says BT number 10. Very faint embossing on these lanterns. Nothing to do with the quality of the globe. They literally were all like this from what I've found. The embossings are rather faint on the globes. Nice little air bubble here in the globe, which I'm a fan of because these globes are obviously hand blown. The fuel cap, which is right in here, very tiny one by the way, that shows you how big it is compared to my thumb. It says made in USA on the fuel cap. That's about it. Kind of a neat little flowering design here on the burner adjustment knob. But as you can look on the fuel tank, where there normally would be a manufacturer, there is nothing on these. Nothing on the bottom either, which by the way too, on the bottoms of these were always tin or steel or however you want to call it. They were not brass. Despite the whole lantern itself being brass, they were not. brass on the bottom for whatever reason, which honestly is probably a good thing. So that way the bottoms of these did not get easily punctured or would rust out if they were left somewhere. Well, no, that's what steel would do. I'm an idiot. Either way, I think steel or tin was the superior option instead of going brass. Obviously, these lanterns are all handmade given the era. Now, excuse me, I'm having some trouble here. These lanterns are actually unique in a way that by some collectors, in a way, they are regarded as the first cold blast lantern ever produced. Now, cold blast being they get direct fresh air in from the chimney that goes down, feeds into the combustion chamber and up to the burner, and is also exhausted out of the stack. These are interesting in that they are not exactly a true cold blast lantern. And that has to do with the construction up here in the top. It obviously looks like a cold blast lantern. Has the air tubes like a cold blast lantern, the chimney like a cold blast lantern, but it is not. It is a hybrid between a cold blast and a hot blast lantern, which some people call a, quote, warm blast lantern, even though it doesn't really make any sense, and there is no such thing. The way that the so-called warm blast lantern works, it has to do with these right up here in the air tubes. This one's not exactly the best representation. Looks like it's been fixed. It's called a Betz baffle. In fact, this one's probably the better one to do. Right here. It's called a Betz baffle. Basically, if you can see from a certain angle, you might be able to. I don't know. I'm going to try. You might see a little bit of daylight shining through this air tube. That's normal. This is called a Betz baffle, and basically what it allows as, on this one there's one on each side, is it allows the fresh air for this lantern to come in through the sides, through these baffles, instead of actually coming in through the top of the chimney like a traditional warm or cold blast lantern would. Obviously different from a warm blast, since a warm blast uses a mix of air. This does not use a mix. The air comes in through these tubes. Now, various ones I have seen have actually either had one or even two of these baffles on either sides. This one has one each. Other models I've seen have had two. Nothing wrong with them having either one or two. I don't know which ones are older or which ones were more of an experiment. I don't know which ones are older, which ones are newer. I think it just kind of was a period where whoever made these, whether it be Steengage or Dietz, was trying to figure out which ones worked better for, you know, certain purposes, or just which one overall performed better. And I never found anything to really signify which one actually did work better, worse, vice versa. I'm going to disassemble this lantern to show in depth more about its overall design and components of it, as I usually do. To harken back though about the styling of this, it's one of my favorite overall looks. I think it has some of the best lines of any lantern. It's maybe a foot tall. Without the bail. It's not very tall at all. The idea behind the number 10 brass tubular from my research was that it was marketed as an indoor use lantern or a ladies lantern. It was meant to be a style piece, a statement piece. It was supposed to look good. I think it looks really good even today. It's very curvy, has a nice clean design, and I think it holds up rather well style-wise. Now, the design itself, in my opinion, in terms to servicing and maintaining these, I think is absolutely awful. It's one of my least favorite lanterns to handle because of the fact that it has no lift. Contrary to what it might look like, this lantern has no lift. The various companies started experimenting with different kinds of lifts in the following decade after this was produced, and the patented side lift that Dietz would use, I assume it was patented, would not come until around the turn of the 20th century, when the DEET side lift was produced. So these have no lift, so you can't just lift these up underneath here to access burner or whatever. These have a match hole located on the bottom of the globe plate. It is located, I have it right about there. You can see it there a little bit. Obviously, you'd stick a match in the hole. I have it lined up with the side of the burner cone to light the wick in these. These lanterns take a 3/8 or 1/4 inch wick depending on the burner. So obviously there is a size variation. I went with the 1/4 inch just because I know it would fit, and it seems to work just fine. Up and down, up and down doesn't really seem to struggle. Fuel cap obviously is very, very small. There's a hair on here. Just to give an idea, and here is the interior of that, which is actually a piece of cork that has been forced onto this little threaded stud. That kind of acts as your insulation. It's a little shiny because I put a little label oil in here because when I initially got this, the fuel cap was stuck, and you can get reproduction size fuel caps for these, but they don't look the same. There's a lot of this on this lantern that can be reproduced, but all of it would have to be done by hand. The only two things, and maybe three things, honestly, that you could get a reproduction of would be the fuel cap, which is a machined one. The burner, don't quote me on that. I'm going to throw the bail out because it's basically a piece of brass wire. And as of recently, the globes. For a long time, the globes were not something you could get. This size globe, this look, is totally unique to these. Another thing about these lanterns that I do not like. The globes are unique to the model. Unlike, you know, a Little Wizard, anything like that. The Little Wizard globe size, whatever, fits in lots of models. Same thing with the number 0 size, you know, DEETs, D-Lights, something like that. They all have a somewhat standard globe size. The number 10 does not. This is totally unique. And this is an original globe, not a reproduction. The reproductions are available through W.T. Kirkman's website, available in clear and red. I don't know if red was a factory color, but it is offered. And they say the same thing on here, BT number 10. And on the other side, this one doesn't say it's original, it would say W.T. Kirkman, whatever embossed on the top, basically signifying that's not an original. I will disassemble this lantern. I will show how it comes apart. Now this lantern is the top support for the globe here. It works similar to a cold blast. Slides up and down in a guide. There's a spring in here that is steel, and when I got this lantern, the spring had kind of stiffened up due to rust and age, and so I worked it loose with some oil and a little bit of persistence and kind of just working it back and forth. I did not use WD-40. Do not use WD-40 as a lubricant. If you're trying to freeze something up, so be it. If you want to lubricate it long term, please do not use WD-40. It evaporates. It doesn't work that way. Grab up here at the top. This mechanism is very delicate, and hopefully it doesn't pop out. It's not wanting to go here. I'm not going to force it. I'm actually going to, for the sake of this, you wouldn't do this when it's burning, I'm going to push up on the globe plate. Just that way it doesn't put any stress on that mechanism. Push it up till it's flush. Now you see it's just freely hanging here. Grab this globe, slowly move it out of the way. This is the globe on this. You can see by the size of my hand here, it's not very big. And as I mentioned, you can see it in the video here, BT number 10, as illustrated. So, it is there. It's very faint. I didn't even know it was there until after I actually cleaned the globe. As you can see, like I mentioned about that spring, it's not exactly the greatest. That's why it hasn't popped back down, because it is old. Here's your globe plate, which I forgot to mention, you can get these made. They're basically the same thing. There's nothing different about them at all. I forgot that you can get these made, because as you can probably figure, these go missing rather easily, because it's just freely sitting on the burner cone. Burner cone, burner, pretty much standard here, nothing out of the ordinary. I put a little bit of oil on everything to make sure it wouldn't seize up. Here's your pressed brass burner cone, and I already took the fuel cap off, so I'm not going to do that again. And here is your burner, which I did the same thing again. I also got 2 wicks, and per the normal tradition that most lantern operators would do, I put the spare wick inside of the tank, so that way, 1, it's all good with fuel, and 2, it's ready to use when it's needed, easily accessible. Use a pair of needle nose in there and reach down. But this is literally all there is. Oh, yeah, piece of something just fell out of there. Throw that in the sink. I'll take a peek up in here. You can see kind of up top here a little bit, maybe not. You can see, here, let me get a light out here. That way you can better see. The sun is coming out, go figure. You can see a little bit inside up in there. Phone screen is not going to take and show you anything. You can see a little bit in there of that globe lift mechanism. It's literally just a piece of wire and a loop, and it is held together with that wire. You can see that spring in there. And here is that globe. I'm going to call it a lift, even though it's not a lift. That's literally all that there is in there that is holding the globe down. So, like I said, not my favorite system by any means. It's probably my least favorite because a lot can go wrong with this. So I've already had this pop out on me a few times. I'm going to take in another flaw about these is the wire here on the lift loop here. I'm going to call can frequently pop out of place, and you're pulling on the side, not the center, which doesn't help your cause when raising the globe for whatever reason or removing the globe. So to reassemble, pretty straightforward. Here's your burner with a 1/4 inch wick, as I stated. Put back in, there's a little notch for that burner. Just give it a little push down. You don't have to push hard. Burner, cone, push on there nice and firm. Globe plate, I try to leave the match hole facing off to the side. Globe, just for display purposes, I always try to keep the embossing now facing out. Now, putting these globes back in is always, to me, the most nerve-wracking part, because 1, I don't want to break it, and 2, if you remember, that tolerance up here between here and here is so minimal that there's maybe like not even a 1/4 inch of clearance to get this globe to properly sit in here. So what I do here, kind of just put it on the globe plate, and I mean, see, look at that. Even when you have it on the globe plate, there's not really an easy way to explain how to put these in. You kind of just put it in the only way that you figure is best, because you have to get it over that cone. Tip it in, line it up, get it where you want, which in this case I'm going to go here. And then when I get it all lined up and centered, my little loop here up top to lower, I'm just going to push right down, and now the globe is secured. So literally about all there is to it. It works pretty well that way, but again, I'm not by any means a fan of this. In fact, actually, the globe wasn't even centered on the plate. But now, it won't go anywhere. Now, these lanterns don't come up very often for sale. They are not by any means a common model. They are not by any means a super rare model. I bought mine for about $60. I thought that was more than fair given the rarity of this model. I've seen them sell as high in the neighborhood of $300, and incomplete they will obviously sell for less than that. So I am by no means a price guide, but that is, in my experience, where I've seen them sell for. Really cool model to own. I love the look of it. I still don't know whether or not I want to keep this one. So for now, though, I'm hanging on to it because it just looks really flippin' cool, and I've never had one this old. So anyway, there's really not much more that can be said, I guess, on this. It was fun to do this lantern review again after not having done one for so many years. I don't really collect lanterns anymore. It's just not my thing. I don't have the time or the space for it. But once in a while, if something comes along that really catches my eye, such as this, I will definitely grab one and do a review on it. I've had a few lanterns come and go throughout my possession the last few years, so I am still somewhat active with the lantern collecting game. But other than that, it's kind of just a little side thing I do to see if I can make a little money on the side. But for now, I'm probably going to hold on to it. I'll sell it eventually. And yeah, there's really not much more to be said. The other thing I guess I'll bring up before I cut this video out is another frequent problem with these, being that they're all brass, is that they're very easy to dent, bend, whatever. A common thing that you'll find with these is the tops, the crowns will be smashed down, and other things will be dent, bent, whatever. So because they are made of brass, and it's not the hardest brass on the planet, they do have a tendency to give. So especially on these, where they are as old as they are and parts are not readily available for the most part and can be expensive to fix, don't force these. If something isn't moving, or if something doesn't immediately do what it's supposed to, just be patient. It probably took me about a half hour of working this spring up here and oiling this. I'm going to call it the globe lift again, even though it's not what it is. It took me probably about a half hour of this to get it to even pop back down, just with the simple tap of the pull loop. So they do take a little bit of persistence, and again, I mean, they're, you know, they're like 135 years old at their newest. So I mean, there's nobody alive who made these, obviously. So they're really cool. If you see one for a decent price, pick it up. Even if it doesn't have the globe or the globe plate, you can get that stuff and just enjoy them. They look really, really neat, and they're small, so you don't have to have a lot of space to display one. And maybe the bail will stay up for me. No, I guess not. But don't pass up the opportunity to buy one of these number 10 brass tubulars. They're definitely worth the time and the money. But really, really fun to make this lantern video after so many years of not doing one. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my 20 minutes or so of rambling on about this beautiful piece. And if I make another video, hope to see you in the next one. 1223 out.